This video is about how platforms are transforming competition. And our next video is going to be about the differences between platforms and pipeline, their different strategies. These are actually taken from a particular book that I used to require. It is called Platform Revolution. It was written by 3 individuals. I actually took a course as well on these Platform Revolution. Unfortunately, I didn't finish it. It was, I got ill and I was not able to carry on with it. But the book I used to require as essential reading for the course, and I did create these 2 videos or PowerPoints from this particular book. And so when we look at who are the authors of this book, we see that the 3 authors are Marshall Van Alstyne, pardon me, Jeffrey Parker, and Sangeet Chaudhuri. Van Alstyne is a professor and chair of the Information Systems Department at Boston University. Jeffrey Parker is a professor of management science at Tulane and is a fellow at the MIT Center for Digital Business. And Sangeet Chaudhuri is a consultant to C-Suite, and as well, he is a co-chair of the MIT Platform Strategy Summit. He was also voted as one of the top 30 emerging business thinkers globally by Thinkers 50. So when we think about our platform firms, you think, okay, well, who are platform firms? What are some examples of platform firms? And here we see some of our examples: Airbnb, Alibaba, Amazon, Apple, eBay, Facebook, Google, Twitter, Uber, YouTube. And when we think of a platform, we actually think of an ecosystem. And that ecosystem has 4 major players. Those players are the producers, the consumers, the providers, and the owner. So the producers are the creators of the offering. So when we think of offerings, what do we think of? We think of these. We think of the apps on our phone, for example. So the offerings there. So the producers are the ones who create those apps. The consumers are you and me. We're the ones who use those apps. We buy those apps. And then we think, well, who are the providers? The providers there, the mobile device. So our physical device there is that interface for the platform, the provider, and then the owner. Who is the owner? It is the one that controls the platform and who decides who can participate on the platform, in what ways can they participate on the platform. So Google being the owner of Android, Apple owner of iOS. Next, when we think of platform strategy, we think, how is that success determined? Well, it's determined by 3 different ways. So connection, gravity, and flow. So connection, how easy is it for other people to come and use that particular platform? Gravity is how well does the platform attract participants from producers and users. One of the things that we think of, and then the next one is flow, is how well does that platform foster that exchange? Because what we are going to see is it is exactly that exchange that is the creation of the value. So when we look at Uber, for example, how easy is it for us to actually access the Uber app? So what is involved there with us accessing that Uber app? And then from a gravity standpoint, when we access the Uber app, do we see that there are cars available or there are no cars available? Or how long is it going to take the car to get to us? Is that car going to get to us in the next 3 to 5 minutes, or is it going to take longer than 10 minutes for that car to get to us? So gravity there. And then that flow is, where are those cars that are going to be able to come to us? What is that exchange going back and forth? So we want a very well-developed exchange. And so the greater the exchange, the greater the number of participants, the more valuable that particular platform is. And the reason for that is the network effects. And so what is network effects? Network effects means that the more members you have in any particular organization or environment, so environment being the platform, the greater that average value of that transaction. And that transaction may not cost any money whatsoever. You think of YouTube, for example. So people getting onto YouTube, and you see people that have what? Thousands upon thousands or millions of subscribers. And these people who are producing the YouTube ads, those people, the influencers, why are they influencing? Because they have 1 million or more subscribers. Does it cost anything for you to get on and to view what those people are putting out there on their YouTube videos? No, it does not. However, those people are making thousands and thousands of dollars. Why is it? Because they're of the ad revenue. And so as you get more and more viewers, I think that the minimum number of viewers for YouTube is 1,000. But as you get more and more viewers, then you are able to monetize that, because you have companies that want to place ads there because you have got this huge reach. You are influencing all of these people. And so therefore, those network effects that you have a greater number of participants onto your network. And so some of the examples here that we see, Alibaba, Google, and Apple, these percentages are a couple of years old. I expect that they're still roughly the same, just to show that these are the types of percentages that we do have. And again, those network effects, the more members you have on the network, the greater the value of that particular network. So now that we know that the greater the value comes from the greater the number of participants, we think, how do we transition from a pipeline, which is a very linear way of thinking, to the platform that uses the network effects? What are some of the differences there with regard to that transition from moving from pipeline to platform? So pipeline being predominantly concerned with the value chain, for example. What do we see? So we see that there are certain shifts, and these shifts are what? They are a shift from a resource control, which is pipeline, that linear side. So we are controlling our very scarce resources, to resource orchestration, to helping those resources to be used by other members, participants in the platform. There is also a shift from internal optimization to external interaction. So what is the value there? The value is in the interaction of the different members, not who owns the resource, because in a lot of these cases, take Airbnb, for example, which is the most profitable, if you want to call it well, it is accommodation. I was going to say hotel, but it's not hotel, but it's accommodations. Airbnb does not own any of those. So Marriott owns its hotel rooms. Hilton owns its hotel rooms, but Airbnb does not own any of that. So it is that what is that shift there? That shift is for the interaction of the individuals. And then the third shift, again, is instead of focusing on customer value, the individual customer, The shift is focusing on the ecosystem value, that value as a whole, looking at that feedback loop between the producer, between the consumer, who again may shift back and forth from one to become the other. Again, with Uber, for example, the Uber driver or the Uber rider, who is the consumer, becoming the Uber driver, who is the producer, and then back and forth. So the provider and the owner, the consumer, the producers, the shift is to that ecosystem as a whole rather than to a particular customer. And what is that customer's life value? So that goes in with our case study that we had from the Small Sam's and the Media Marys there. That was much more a focus on a pipeline, looking at what is that customer value, that lifetime customer value. Well, what we do see is that in the future, it's been predicted that every company will become a tech company, have part of its core, if you will, be the technology there. How are we disseminating, or how are they disseminating that information, whether that information be actual product or whether it be a service. And so we see how companies are getting more and more the Internet of Things. And so we see that companies are moving more and more toward a platform type business. They don't have to give up the pipeline business. So that pipeline business is still important for certain companies, for most companies, I would say. However, there is definitely a shift toward how the companies can use the network effects, how they can link up different groups there to use that information, and that information is becoming valuable in itself. That link, that ease of link between one producer and a consumer and the provider and the owner, those links there, those individual pieces, those are becoming valuable in and amongst themselves. And so the prediction here, so we've got Nostradamus. He did not predict this, but I thought he would be a good art exhibit for us, that the prediction is that all businesses will need to move to some type of network business model, or they're going to be disrupted by the ones that do.